It was a crisp morning on my Colorado ranch, the kind where the air smells like pine and promise. I just poured a steaming cup of coffee when a harsh honk cut through the quiet, echoing from the gate. Stepping outside, I saw a guy in a tacky, knockoff uniform flashing a badge that looked like it was printed at a dollar store. He claimed he was there to inspect an HOA violation, but I knew better. That badge was flimsy as his story. Standing behind him, smirking like she owned the world, was Eleanor Whitmore, the HOA president who'd turned our neighborhood into her personal fiefdom. What she didn't know was the man she was trying to bully was me, Daniel Harper, a federal marshal with 23 years of experience. She'd picked the wrong fight, and I was ready to bring the law, the truth, and a whole lot of grit to her doorstep. My name's Daniel Harper, and this ranch is my heart and soul. My great-grandfather built the house in 1923, back when this land was just rolling fields under a big sky. My grandfather added the wraparound porch during the Depression, where my grandmother would sit, shucking peas and watching storms sweep the plains. My dad built the workshop where I learned to fix engines as a kid, grease under my nails, and his lessons about honor shaping who I became. For 15 years, I've poured my life into restoring every plank and stone, all while serving as a marshal. This place isn't just a house, it's 4 generations of Harper history, soaked in memories. Sunday barbecues with my grandfather's stories, Christmas mornings with snow like a postcard, my daughter Lily's first steps on that porch before cancer stole her 3 years ago. When developers came sniffing 5 years back, while vying fat checks for what they called prime real estate, I shut them down cold. This isn't property. It's legacy built with sweat, love, and time. Eleanor Whitmore blew into our quiet suburb 3 years ago like a storm in a pantsuit. A former city planner from Chicago, she had perfect blonde hair, a tech-mobile husband, and a briefcase stuffed with ambition. Within 6 months, she'd sweet-talked her way into the HOA presidency, promising to boost property values and enforce community standards. Sounds nice, right? Except her standards were a 47-page rulebook that'd make a dictator blush. Grass measured to the quarter-inch. Paint colors picked from a beige nightmare. No trucks over 6,000 pounds in driveways, wiping out half our blue-collar neighborhood's vehicles. Garden gnomes? Banned. American flags? Permit required. Mailboxes had to match her approved designs, and she'd inspect them weekly like a drill sergeant. But me? I was her real target. My ranch predated the HOA by 70 years, exempt from her relative fact that drove her up the wall. My modest house and workman's trucks were a stain on her shown of a suburban utopia, every lawn clipped like a golf course, every home ready for a magazine cover. She started with fines that had no legal bite, threats a law student could shred, and social stunts like sending her minions to snap photos of my place, muttering about community values. She even got the city to inspect my septic and wiring, sending puzzled workers who knew they were pawns in her game. My place passed every test 4 generations of Harper's don't cut corners. But Eleanor didn't quit. If anything, my compliance made her double down. She had city council buddies, a suspiciously cozy tie to the planning department, and a clique of rich neighbors who saw her as their ticket to higher property values. To her, laws were tools, regulations were weapons, and I was an obstacle to her perfect world. That morning, with her fake cop at my gate, Eleanor stood there in a La 300 blazer, hair catching the sunlight, looking like she'd never lost a fight. She thought she could buy, bully, or bluff her way to VY Tory. She was wrong. Over the next 2 weeks, she unleashed a campaign that'd make a general jealous. The fire department showed up Monday, hunting hazardous materials in my garage, finding nothing but lawnmower gas. Wednesday, code enforcement nitpicked my fence, demanding permits for a structure grandfathered in decades ago. Thursday, the health department tested my well water after citizen reports of suspicious active VY tie. The water was pristine, and they left red-faced. Each VY sit cost me work hours and paperwork, with city workers mumbling about procedure while avoiding my eyes. I could see they hated being Eleanor's puppets, but her influence ran deep. Her slickest move was legal. She dug up a 1987 surveying error that put 200 square feet of my Lammy mailbox and driveways under HOA control. Her lawyer, a sharp young woman named Claire Bennett, sent a letter dripping with polite menace. Comply with all HOA rules, or they foreclose on that corner, blocking my access. It was a trap to force me to sell to developers I'd noticed circling, their silver Mercedes parked at Eleanor's house during random inspections. When I refused, she turned to mind games. She organized beautification walks, where 20 neighbors gawked at my fence, snapping photos and griping loudly. She ran a social media group blasting certain residents who didn't care about the shared paradise. Then her teenage son and his buddies spray-painted "comply or leave" on my gate, caught clear as day on my cameras. When I called her with the imaginative, she laughed it off as boys being boys and slapped me with a $50 daily fine for the graffiti her kid saw left. The nerve was unreal. The breaking point came when she got the city to call my workshop a commercial structure, violating zoning, despite permits from 20 years ago. The demolition order hit like a sledgehammer. That workshop held my dad's tools, my grandfather's workbench, and memories of Saturday mornings with Lily, teaching her to change oil before she got sick. Eleanor weaponized my grief at HOA meetings, cloaking her jabs in fake sympathy. Standing there that night, surrounded by those memories, I knew she'd miscalculated. She'd cornered a federal marshal, and I wasn't buckling. I was fighting. I got to work like I was building a case against a mob boss. My first break came from an unlikely ally, Sophia Alvarez, the HOA secretary and Eleanor's loyal shadow. She cornered me by the grocery store produce, whispering like we were spies. "She's doing things that'd make people sick if they knew," Sophia said, voice shaking. She documented forged meeting minutes, fake votes, and HOA funds funneled to Eleanor's legal fights. Most damning? Secret recordings of Eleanor bragging about her City Hall connections and a plan to push out undesirables for developers. She had a list: Mrs. Garcia's vegetable garden, the Lopez family's RV, old Mr. Thompson's unkempt yard. Community optimization, she called it, like she was running a corporation, not ruining lives. I went full Marshal mode, using skills from chasing crooks and corrupt politicians. My federal credentials got me city records showing Eleanor's husband's firm-pocketed $75,000 from Apex Development, the same outfit eyeing my land. The payments labeled community assessments, lined up with her HOA takeover and the inspection blitz. A buddy at the FBI's white-collar unit dug deeper. Eleanor was already under scrutiny in Chicago for similar HOA scams, fleeing just as a grand jury closed in. The fake cop, Tony Russo, was the jackpot. A former mall guard with a rap sheet for impersonating cops. He'd been paid $500 to scare me of federal crime, since Eleanor knew I was a marshal. Tony was facing hard time, and guys like him sing when the feds knock. I didn't just need EVY I needed a team. I started hitting city council meetings, not as a pissed-off homeowner, but as a marshal sniffing out corruption. I logged every sketchy link between Eleanor's complaints and city actions. I looped in Deputy Laura Carter, the sheriff who'd been roped into a bogus weapons check at my place. Over coffee, I showed her the false reports, the developer ties, the fake cop stunt. Her face went red with cop rage. "She's wasted hundreds of hours of our time," Laura fumed. "If this checks out, she's done." My ace was Emily Tran, a Denver Post reporter tracking HOA abuse. "This is bigger than your neighborhood," she said, eyes lighting up. "Give me the proof, and we've got a front-page expose." By the October 15th HOA meeting, I was locked and loaded. Usually, Eleanor ran these from her Lee VY Ing room with a handful of board attendees. But Emily's teaser article and my door-to-door outreach packed the community center with 43 furious residents. Eleanor strutted in, power suit gleaming, thinking she could steamroll us. "I know there have been rumors," she began, voice dripping with disdain, "but we won't be intimidated by troublemakers." That's when I stood, feeling 3 years of her crap settle on me like armor. "Eleanor, this community deserves the truth," I said, walking to the front. Her smirk faltered. "Mr. Harper, you're out of order," she snapped. "You're right." I shot back, flashing my marshal's badge. The room froze. "I'm a federal officer, and I've got EVY denke of crimes affecting every one of you." I hijacked her projector, showing security footage of Russo's fake cop act. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "That's just the start," I said, nodding to Sophia. She stood, voice quaking but firm. "Eleanor's forged votes, stolen HOA money, and worked with developers to push you out." I flashed records of her husband's due, lost $75,000 payout. Eleanor's face went white as the crowd turned on her. "This is slander," she shrieked. "I'll sue." Deputy Carter stepped up, badge gleaming. "Mrs. Whitmore, you're under arrest for fraud, false reports, and conspiracy." The room exploded, years of fear and anger bursting free. Mrs. Garcia called out Eleanor's threats over her garden. The Lopezes admitted they'd nearly left. Mr. Thompson wept, describing his terror. Emily Tran scribbled furiously, her camera catching Eleanor's meltdown as Carter cuffed her. As she was dragged out, still screaming about her connections, Mrs. Garcia stood. "I move we dissolve this HOA, saw. Every hand shot up, and the applause felt like freedom. Eleanor's reckoning was swift. Federal charges: conspiracy, mail fraud, CIVYL rights VY olations landed her 4 years in prison and due law $340,000 in restitution. Her husband's firm got raided, exposing a multi-state HOA scam. Russo flipped, spilling on her other intimidation jobs. Apex Development collapsed under federal scrutiny, their execs charged. Our neighborhood healed fast. The Lopezes stayed, welcomed with a midnight block party. Mrs. Garcia's garden became a community hub. Mr. Thompson got volunteers to tend his yard. The city nixed my workshop order, fired 3 complicit employees, and tightened enforcement rules. 2 years later, Emily's book and documentary made our fight a national story. I started helping others, teachers in Arizona, veterans in Texas beat their own HOA tyrants. My ranch, once Eleanor's target, became a symbol of defiance. Every morning, checking the mailbox she tried to weaponize, I'm reminded, one person, armed with truth and guts, can topple a bully. Now, here's where it gets spicy. Was I too harsh, going full Marshal on Eleanor, or did she deserve every bit of it? Should HOAs even exist, or are they just playgrounds for power-hungry types like her? Could my neighbors have fought sooner, or was fear too strong? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more real-life showdowns. Let's hear your take.